Describe the fight itself. What was it? I mean, how close hand to hand?
It wasn't hand to hand, it wasn't close handed, but they were engaging enemies within, I would say, an estimate of between 30 to 75 meters.
What's it like to fight at that range?
I myself did not engage anybody at that range, but from the experiences of my soldiers that did, it's exciting, but at the same time, there's a lot of fear. Pulling the trigger, I mean, I don't think that anybody wants to ever be in that situation where they're that close. We'd rather have a larger standoff, of course, but it's exciting, but it's painful at the same time.
Okay. Describe, was there any point where you're sitting there, and were you in any position where you're like, chances are I'm not going to make it?
I did, but I didn't show it because I had to be strong for my men, and I wanted to know that we were all going to make it through this, and we were all going to continue to fight hard.
Okay. Did you have anything to do with the casualty collection point or taking care of the wounded?
I did. Myself and other elements went to cover each other's backs again to move forward and bound forward and collect our heroes. We refer back to the warrior ethos of that we never leave a fallen behind, they never leave a fallen soldier. And so we went and policed up our heroes, and we also provided first aid for those who were wounded.
Describe the medical situation during the firefight.
The medical situation was, at one point when I had men securing the first aid station or the aid station, was sounds that I don't ever want to hear again. It was basically inside that aid station, it was a bloodbath. And knowing what was coming from some of the soldiers and the very few A&A that were in there was probably something I'll never forget. Something that you would only imagine in a horror movie of some sort.
Describe what the medics and the physician's assistant, how you think they did, what they did.
No one could have asked better of our medics and the physician assistant. Those guys performed flawlessly. They did everything they could to save lives and patch soldiers up to get them back into the fight. I don't think at one time did they show any stress or any grief of any kind. They continued to do what they were trained to do, and they did it to the best of their ability at all times.
Describe why you couldn't get your mortar system working.
The mortar systems weren't working because they were basically pinned down. The mortar system was roughly up against the mountainside, and they were getting overwhelming fire from above them. So every time they attempted to man the mortar tube, they were basically pinned down by heavy machine gun fire or accurate sniper fire.
How did that hinder things for your defense of the cop?
It hindered it greatly initially. We couldn't get effective mortar fire on enemies that we typically do on sporadic engagements. It was painful not to have them, but I know if they were in the fight, they would have done a great job.
Were they able to send ground reinforcements at any time during the battle?
They came later that evening, but any time that we got them was great to have them come aboard and assist us in securing the COP and help us completely sweep the entire the FOB or the COP at the time.
Describe the battle by the time the ground reinforcements had come.
Before they had come, basically a few hours before they arrived, there was the enemy fire started to slow down. I believe because the Apaches and the Air Force were hitting them pretty hard. So we were constantly getting Apache fire, A-10 fire, and Air Force bombers basically laying down a real heavy barrage of fire on the enemy.
And I know pretty much all the burnings burned down but like one. Like, is that correct?
For the most part.
Okay.
It was actually two.
Two? I know one was the barracks that you guys created into your own makeshift COP, and I take it the other one was the aid station?
The aid station remained standing.
Okay. Describe what it was like to look at Keating after the fight.
It was painful to look at after the fight, seeing burnt out buildings, Humvees with large holes in them. You saw some blood of your fallen on a lot of equipment, and the enemy fighters that were still kind of waiting to be recovered, and things like that. I mean, the only way I can really describe it for anybody to understand is take a good look at any kind of Vietnam movie, and seeing an aftermath of what they might have went through was pretty accurate to what we went through.